Hi everybody, Tim Hughes here. I'm the co-founder and CEO of DLA Ignite. With me today I've got LD Mangin. LD, you're the co-founder and CEO of Confiant. If I got that right?
Yeah, Confiant.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Today we're going to talk about advertising or mal-advertising and the effects of having bad guys within the system within advertising. So I've spoken in the past with Dr. Fu about one end of the ad tech stack, which is where people are buying advertising, which has bad guys. You're at the other end of it, which is where there's actually software and code that is actually causing malware and problems.
Yeah,
before we go anywhere, where can people get hold of you?
LinkedIn is the best way. So Louis David Mangin, LUIS-David, last name Mangin. So yeah, LinkedIn is the best path for me. I think my pseudonym there is LDMANGIN.
Cool. So how did you get to being where you are? Because when we did the prep, you gave me loads of things to go away and read, and it is fascinating.
Yeah, no. So I co-founded Confiant with our CTO, my partner Jerome Dongu. So he and I are both French. He's got the cool accent. I don't. I lost it many years ago when I moved to the US. We met now just about 7.5 years ago, and it was his research and analysis that brought us to this problem. So I have a background in startups and was at the time running the division of a digital out-of-home media company and decided I wanted to get back into tech. And so I went looking for someone who was smart, who was doing something interesting. And so I met him, became fascinated by it. So he has a background in security and is an expert at reverse engineering. And he had figured out, started seeing all these issues in ads and decided that he wanted to tackle it. And so he started building an algorithm to detect, at that point in time, it was exploit kits within flash ads. So security work in general, it's often important to think about it as it's an arms race. It's kind of an ongoing military style battle where the war is never done, but you have these different phases of the war. And so when we started Confiant, the major types of issues that were being used by malvertisers, by these criminals that would seek to compromise the ecosystem in the marketplace, were exploit kits and flash ads. So it's a lot of ransomware, especially.
Yeah, there's two types of ad fraud. There's the publisher, which is the victim, and then there's the user that's the victim.
Yeah, exactly. So we tend to talk about it in terms of vectors of attack. Yeah. So there's there's two vectors in the ad world. There's the one where the criminals will create fake users and fake impressions to attack the real advertisers. And so that's what we call ad fraud. It's where the advertiser is the victim. The other vector is where the criminal will create a fake advertiser to attack the real user. And that's when the publisher is the vector for that the ad is the vector for that. And that's where you're dealing with exploit kits, with drive-by downloads, with phishing scams, with crypto scams, with criminal scams. There's a variety of methods of attack where the user gets victimized either by compromising their device, compromising their data, or actually getting them to interact with the scam and give all that up. So Confiant, we focus on the latter. Dr. Fu focuses a lot of his attention on that former, the ad fraud vector, where the impression is bad and the advertiser is the victim. Confiant, we focus on the one where the advertiser is bad and the user is the victim. And so we deployed to the marketplace now the industry's first real-time ad verification solution. We launched that back in May of 2017. And we were the innovators that kind of built the industry's first protection system that could act on behalf of the publishers to actively remove and block any impression that had these malicious attacks hidden inside of it. And so it's been a very fun ride because since we put out the industry's strongest shield, we are the ones that the bad guys orient themselves on, because they know that if they can get through us, then they can get through everyone who's behind us as well, because we're the strongest one. And so it makes for a very interesting adversarial game where we need to predict where they're going. They try and predict where we're going, and you create this battle, and you are acting in this battlefield, which is the pipes of the digital ad ecosystem.
So it's like a digital game of chess, really, isn't it? In terms of
very much so. Although I would more put it akin to Go than to chess, given the complexities. Chess, at the end of the day, math can master. Security tech is one where really the human ingenuity needs to be completely, so from our side, from the protector side, the humans and technology need to really be intertwined very closely, because that's what the adversary is doing. And so it's a security tech is an area, for instance, where machine learning has yet to penetrate very strongly, just because of that reliance on human ingenuity being still so strong. So it's really both the software and the team controlling the software that is relevant to the strength of a security system.
So talk us through the history of attacks, because there's been different, as you said, it's an arms race. So it started off with Flash. Talk us through that.
Yeah, so phase one was when the industry was using Flash as the main ad component. So all of the ads being served onto sites were Flash based, and Flash is, as I hope many people know, notorious for its security holes. And so there were many exploit kits that are written around Flash and that have been in the market for many years. And so I think the first recorded ransomware attack via ads was in 07, 08. And so there were definitely attacks before that, but this was the first major one that really got a lot of attention. So ransomware, by the way, for those that don't know, it's when an exploit locks the computer and encrypts it, and the only person who can decrypt it is the owner of the ransomware. They have a key and they put a message on your screen saying, call us if you want to get your data back. And so ransomware was something that started out very targeted to consumers and remained so for a few years before the industry really started making a lot of efforts to remove Flash from its infrastructure. At which point the ransomware makers really pivoted to attacking corporate environments, and they moved away from the ad world, because so when Flash was removed from the infrastructure completely, the industry made a big shift about 5-6 years ago that had been planned for a few years to stop doing Flash ads completely, and it was in part driven by the browsers. Google had said it would no longer allow Flash ads to load in the browser, and then the other browsers got on the same bandwagon. So that finally triggered the industry to take care of this. So phase two, the attackers. So advertising, digital advertising especially, is just too attractive a medium for the bad guys to ignore it. It is, at the end of the day, the best way to reach the most amount of people. So if they pivoted away from the exploit kits and from the Flash when it got blocked, and they moved to more JavaScript-based attacks. And so when I say JavaScript, so it's the type of code that launches the attack. And so to a user, I imagine most everyone has seen this at one point in time. It's when your screen automatically redirects you to a new page that tells you that you've won a free Amazon gift card, or that Orange Telecom has made a mistake in your favor because on your billing, because you're a subscriber to them, or some other type of content where the screen moves without your interaction. That's called a forceful redirection. And that is a mechanism that exists within JavaScript, where the JavaScript is controlling the browser automatically. So the moment the ad loads, it can bring you anywhere it wants.
Yeah.
And so at that point, it then depends on the sophistication of the actor. Do they bring you to a phishing scam where they're going to try and get health information? Do they bring you to a banking scam where they're going to try and get you to give them your bank details? Do they bring you to an actual exploit kit and do a drive-by download? There's still a lot of fake Flash updates where people try and get those old Flash ransomware exploits installed onto people's computers. And so that's been phase two. And so phase two has been very interesting to combat, because it has really raised awareness for these issues very high for the industry, because it's a scenario where the mechanism of attack, that redirection, can occur so easily that they can just flood the marketplace. And so there are days where we see upwards of over 10% of all ads on any given day serving from specific exchanges that are malicious. And then that's a significant amount. When you think of every 10 ads that someone sees on the internet that's a very significant thing. And those are spikes. The average when we started, so Confine was the first to ever be able to track these issues at an impression level and get an estimate for their scale. So when we started, the benchmark average that we established was 1 out of 200. So 1 out of 200 ads was malicious, outright malicious. And if you think of today, when we think of danger, we talk about them as dangerous or disruptive to the user, because at the end of the day, it isn't just the most malicious ones that hurt people. It's also obviously there are a lot of disruptive ads. So about 1 out of 150 is the metric we use today. Anyway, so phase 2 has been about those redirects, and they annoyed a lot of people. A lot of people fell for them, but they also annoyed a lot of people. So it's made the industry very aware of this as well. And so the industry's already started to try and move to control the infrastructure and remove that JavaScript element, and so as to protect from these types of attacks. And so we have been expecting now at Confine, and with our security team, these are discussions that we have obviously to try and game out what 3, 4, 5 steps forward, what's going to happen. And so one of the trajectories that we mapped that we were expecting was a move to phase 3, where the bad guys move away from using this JavaScript-based mechanism and go more purely to clickbait ads. So where the malware isn't in the ad anymore, it's now on the landing page, and they use psychological methods to convince the user to click through to that landing page. For them, it ends up being a much more powerful attack, because when there's the redirection, people get hit, and it's like you and I will see it. I know what it is. I close my browser, I move on, and it annoys me. I don't fall for it. It annoys me, but I don't fall for it. There are very few people who fall for it. But so by moving to clickbait, they're using a psychological element, which is, hey, you see an ad, and it shows you something that you're interested in for some reason. So in the UK right now, unfortunately, so there's a whole slew of ads that now use celebrity deaths or celebrity COVID infections, saying, "Oh my God, Martin Lewis has been," or in the U. Actually, it started in Germany with Boris Becker.
Okay.
Boris Becker was the first,
yeah.
And it was an ad that said Boris Becker's been beaten up, right. Tragedy for Deutschland. And so of course it's like Boris Becker is a national treasure. He's Boris Becker, and so people would click, and then once you click through, now it wasn't the art, and you're on a page that's made to look like the Bild or one of the big newspapers in Germany, so it looks authentic, and it's now actually Boris Becker is endorsing this cryptocurrency investment mechanism that he's made a wild amount of money on, and he thinks you should invest too. So psychologically, you know that the ad is not actually linked to the content, but you click because of Boris, and now Boris is telling you something. So it plays into the way psychology works, that you get confirmation bias, and they basically drag you along, and they unfortunately these attackers then become a lead source to these crypto scams, and they make a ton of money. So just that German attack at its height with Boris Becker, we estimated the attackers was making, who was an affiliate, driving leads to the actual crypto scam owner, because there's always a decouple, there's always a chain of people in this. Just the affiliate was making $1 million a day.
Wow.
So just for referring people to the scam owner themselves. And the scam owner was one where if you decide that this is a worthwhile investment vehicle for you, you'd click through, you set up an account on their site, you send them money, and they show you your trading, where your trading you're making your $5,000, now it's turned into 15, and they ask you should put more in, and then you put more in, and the numbers keep going up and up and up. The problem is there are no numbers. It's a fake dashboard. It's like they are just making it look like you have an account and that you have assets, but actually they've just taken your money and they've left. And unfortunately, this preys on the elderly. This preys on the retirees, and there are many people that have lost their life savings to this, and it's a very nefarious thing. And so in the UK, they pick Martin Lewis as the endorser of this scam, because obviously he's such a trusted voice and person that it's a perfect synergy of using his voice illegally to drive people to this investment scam. So this has generated a lot of attention. It's unfortunate. It is for us what we were expecting as phase 3, where the bad guys become more sophisticated, and they start really using their sophistication to compromise the ecosystem. Those clickbait ads and the campaigns that we've been able to track, we've seen them have 3 to 5% click-through rate.
Wow.
So that is unheard of. These are the masters of advertising. It's like any advertiser in the world would cut off their front teeth to get that type of return on advertising. It's often 100th of that, if a 10th of that, if not 100th of that. So it's security tech is interesting. Security tech and ads is interesting, and it's unfortunately the bad guys aren't going away.
But the industry is digital, though, isn't it? It's we've now moved over. I mean, there's always a report that comes out every year that says that there's now more advertising on digital than analog. But I can never find anybody that watches a TV ad or anything like that anyway.
Yeah.
So we live in a digital world.
We do. And it's actually, as of just a few weeks ago, digital has officially passed analog as the largest advertising spend. So digital is now officially the majority of all ad spend out there in the world. And so, yeah, I mean, digital, it's there. When you think of digital ads, there are two things that matter. One is the ads, and one is the fact that it's digital. So fundamentally, these types of issues and malvertising, it is endemic to the fact that these are digital ads. Because they are digital, they will have these types of security holes within them. And the broader open web in and of itself is built on protocols where the security issues can only ever increase. There will always be more holes and more edge cases where there are security vulnerabilities in the open web, because the underlying protocol is such that it needs to accommodate anyone connecting any computer at any time to it needs to be accommodated. It is an open protocol. And so that is just the basis of it. Now, the ad-supported web is the ad pipes of the open web, though. It is a subset of the open web, and it is actually a closed ecosystem. There are n number of doors that enter, and there are x number of sites that exit. And so, although it is a very convoluted ecosystem, and today the industry does not have control over those doors or those exits, because it is a closed ecosystem, with the proper technology and the proper processes and the proper conviction, it is an ecosystem that can be closed off and controlled. And so because of that, there is an opportunity to create a world without malvertising, because fundamentally it's like control is at the core of this problem. The industry has built its pipes in such a way that it does not control what is happening inside the pipes.
Right.
So we could talk at length about why that is, that the fact that it just is what matters today, in terms of, right, the industry does not have this control, and therefore it needs to have it. And so it is, so as I mentioned, the security issues are endemic to it, but because of the industry's lack of control, the issues are also systemic. I.e., there is no party in the ecosystem that has not been corrupted by these issues. There is no buy side platform, there is no sell side platform, there is no publisher that hasn't benefited from this. And so it's a very insidious type of attack, because the bad guys pay. The way they get in actually is because they call up a buy side platform and said, hey, I've got $250,000. I want to buy starting tomorrow, and the check can hit your account tomorrow morning, and I want to be buying on Wednesday. And it's a hard thing to say no to. Hey, someone wants to give me lots of money. Okay, great. So obviously the good actors know that they need to be careful, and they are beginning to become more sophisticated to the needs. And so that's where companies like Confiant come in. We're raising awareness about the issue with our research. We're being innovative in our technology in terms of how to solve this. And we are really looking to be the security arm of the digital ad industry, because this is an issue where everyone, all the publishers, all the platforms, they're all on the same side when it comes to this issue. They're not in competition, and the cooperation is actually necessary. So I was doing a roundtable where the MC was a gentleman who's very sophisticated and knows this industry very well, and he talked about how the biggest challenge for the industry is actually cooperation, right? And not just on this problem, but in general, because there are certain things that the industry should not compete on, but it still does, because advertising is a very cutthroat environment. It's one where there's a lot of conflicts of interest, and there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of value to be had. I mean, there's a lot of money being spent, and that attracts a lot of people, even the bad guys.
And the thing is the rules are controlled by the advertisers, aren't they?
Yeah, so it's an asymmetrical marketplace. The buyer is always the buyers, the seller is always the sellers, and so that creates a quite a power imbalance in the marketplace, and therefore the rules of the marketplace, the rules of the industry have been skewed because of that, and so the publishers haven't gotten the controls they need. They haven't gotten the responsibility. Even in some ways, I could say they haven't gotten the revenue they need to be truly self-sustaining and over the long term. And so it is something that the industry has been dealing with now for many years. And there's been a lot of the middle market has been contracting. There are less SSPs, less DSPs than there used to be, in large part because they're focusing on the quality, they're focusing on the controls, and they're making sure that they're adding value, versus just everyone kind of taking a piece of the pie as it was in the wild west world of 5-10 years ago. So the industry is becoming more sophisticated, but it's important to remember this is an industry that didn't exist 30 years ago. All that middle market layer, and so this is 30 years ago. There was never a question of control for a media company. It's like, if you wanted to advertise, you had to send your ad ahead of time, and you can't put a virus in a TV ad. You can put an insidious message, but because they would get the ad ahead of time, they could decide whether or not to accept the message or not, and they could reject it. And so they had these controls built in to their processes. As the industry moved to the web, it lost all of those, and so it's something that the market has kind of realized as an afterthought, saying, "Oh wait, we forgot that we needed these controls. We just been running so fast to build this industry that we forgot we needed them, and it's hard to go back and rewrite infrastructure and rebuild it." And so there's a need to rebuild from what is existing and already, and then we add to it and fix it over time. But this isn't a problem that goes away in 1 year. But with effort and with commitment and with cooperation, this is a problem that we believe that within 5 years we can master. Because at the end of the day, because it's that closed ecosystem, the industry controls the landscape on which we fight our battles. Again, security is an arms race. And therefore, if the industry can skew the infrastructure in our favor to a point where we are guaranteed to have a stronger feedback loop, then we as confined and we as the industry can consistently beat the bad guys. Because in security work, the feedback loop is the most important thing. Whoever has the stronger feedback loop, they will win. They may lose an individual battle, but they will win the war if you have the stronger feedback loop, if you have the better information and the faster turnaround.
And is that about getting the industry to step up and do something and work together and collaborate?
Yeah, there's definitely an element of the industry leaning in and accepting that this isn't just a buy side problem or a sell side. This isn't just publishers. It's everyone's problem, and as an industry, the standards need to be set and moved on. And it's also a technology problem because the infrastructure that exists for the ad supported web, from a technology point of view, a lot of the major platforms are 10 years old. Sites are not every site is running the latest version of any significant code. So we caught an attack end of last year, early this, where it was super sophisticated. I believe we called these folks Wolflocker, but these were attackers who, instead of compromising ads, they sought to compromise the ad infrastructure. So they found a hack inside of an open source version of an ad server called Revive, which is the old OpenX open source ad server code. And this is something that the Revive team had been working on and had figured out, but a lot of people hadn't upgraded their code. And so there was this edge case that existed where the hacker could compromise the ad server, and it would be running your ads, Tim, day in, day out, but they would have access to it, and they would slip their attack into your ads. So instead of them having to buy ads for themselves to run their attack, they were now able to put their attack into your ad. And so and that's just one of the stories that we know of where the bad guys are, again, looking to hack the industry. And the hacks can come in many ways. It need not just be them as malicious buyers. They can actually attack the industry head on and hack the infrastructure like that.
Because if as a user, I have the option to use things like ad blockers. So if I want to stop myself seeing these things, it's something that I could start actually using, isn't it?
Yeah, there are unfortunately many countries where there are major segments of the population that have opted out of the ad-supported web. and that is that is a risk. That is the big risk that the open web and the ad supported open web has. Fundamentally, there's already the Googles, Facebooks of the world that are the 800-pound gorillas that take 2/3 of all the ad spend that happens every year to themselves, and then the open marketplace is really just 1/3 of that total ad spend. But the open marketplace is where all the content gets generated. So all the media companies are making their dollars just on that third. And if they don't make the dollars, then it doesn't, we can have all the social media we want. If we don't have things to post about, if we don't have funny videos, if we don't have news stories, if we don't have that in that content, then the systems like Facebook and Google will suffer. And so Google is a big proponent of this. They're very serious about both their security as well as their commitment to the space. They are more open than the Facebook, in part because they are part of that open web. Facebook runs its own system, its own network. It's like they advertise only within themselves. So although they run a closed ecosystem, it is just they've created a different media type, and that has just sucked away attention and dollars because they've been very successful at it and because it provides a very good platform. But that open web part, that is the part that we focus on, because that's where the security risks enter. And that's the one that from if we want to tie this to freedom of speech and world peace, at the end of the day, it's like the capitalist system works on the ability of companies to manufacture and to advertise and to consumers to be informed and to make decisions. And so ads are a part of that system, and they've been a big driver of the growth of the web. It's like you have 60 plus, I think probably up to 80 or $90 billion a year that is spent just on advertising. That feeds and allows the web to grow. And so there are many other mechanisms. Ads are not the only mechanism that drive the web, but it is definitely a core component of it. And if we lose that, then we'll lose a lot. A lot will be lost with it. So it's this is about the industry owning its responsibilities and protecting the users from the security risks, from the quality issues, and from the privacy risks as well. Because if not, as you said, the users have a mechanism. They can opt out.
So before we finish up, you've talked about there being 3 different types of technology around, and how the error rates have to be different in terms of where those technologies applied. Talk us through that.
Yeah, so it's like anyone who's ever done a technology software deal of any type, selling software, knows that the SLAs is where everyone gets caught and stuck on in terms of what are the service levels. So SLAs means service level
agreements.
Sorry, thank you. Service level agreements, and they are where the selling company commits to the buying company how reliable is the software. And so in SLAs, it's very common to start negotiating over how many nines do you add. So is it 99.9? Is it 99.99999? And obviously the holy grail.
And that's the uptime of the system, yeah.
That is the uptime of the system. So how accessible will the uptime? And so the way to think about it, I believe if you add 2 nines, you are saying that the system will only be unavailable something like 50 minutes in the month. And that math isn't exactly perfect. I apologize if I got the number wrong, but approximately it's that. And that's not a lot of time. If you add another 9, so if you're at 99.999, now you're talking, you have a downtime of a handful of minutes per month. And so writing software that has high level of uptime, that is how software is built. That's how traditional software is built. That's how it's bought, and then that's how it's sold. It's like, hey, this is so reliable. Anyone knows they want to. If you can get the 3 nines, you're doing really well. You've got a very reliable system. You've got a very reliable software, and you're committing to that quality. In advertising, in display ads, there is the starting point on average is about 3 to 4% discrepancies, i.e. 97% reliability. If a company does amazingly well, so we know obviously we've integrated over 120 publishers into our system. And so we've seen a lot of sites, we've seen a lot of infrastructure related to this. We once, or I think twice, have come across companies that can get that error rate down into like 1%, 1.5%. And that's amazing. So that means 98.5% reliability. In video, so that was display ads. In video, the starting point is 85% reliability.
Right.
I.e., in video ads, when you run an auction, there's a site requests an ad from the marketplace. There's an auction that different buyers bid at, and then someone wins, and then they say, great, deliver my ad. Only in 85% of those times, when after the auction has been won, so there's a winner, and it's great, load my ad. 85% of the time, or rather 15% of the time, that ad does not load.
Oh dear.
So that means 85% reliability. So the reason that matters is when you have to code a system to be able to deliver 99.999 or 999, and you don't even get into the fourth or the fifth nines, because that's you're talking military grade technology at that point. And even I don't know if they can get there, but you have to code a certain way. You have to build with reliability in mind, and the ad ecosystem doesn't do that. And it's not it's like it requires much more magic, much more art than science to make advertising technology work, because you're dealing with such a hodgepodge of different other elements that can influence your system. Your code's efficacy is not actually reliant just on your code. It's reliant on all the different systems that connect to your code as well. And so having a technology system where the reliability is 85%, that skews things. And it also, from a security point of view, it introduces a lot more holes. And edge cases are what the bad guys capitalize on. I don't even know, we've never been able to find it, but it's like, it's even possible that conceivably the bad guys are contributing to those edge cases, i.e. that a few of those percentage points are because of them, because they specifically make it break for one reason or another, that it allows them to access things without being tracked, for instance. So anything of that type of blurriness makes security exponentially harder. And so we definitely have our work cut out for us. And
then there's security tech as well, isn't there?
Well, yeah. So security tech is the difference there is the adversarial nature of it. No one who's writing accounting software considers how the adversary, the IRS, is going to game the software. No, it's like the IRS is going to control it. They're going to verify with the output of it, but they're not an actual adversary. Amazon doesn't build its marketplace technology in mind. They definitely build it with security in mind, so that someone can't hack it. But they're building it with the user in mind. Their goal is to allow you as a user to have the best experience possible, and they want to deliver it consistently and with high reliability. Security tech, we have to build it. Our end user, if you will, or the person we build it against is the adversary. We build it with the fact that we know someone else is going to come and try and break it and break through what we do. And so that means that we have to build it with that arms race mentality of, hey, it's not about just today, it's about the feedback loop over time. And it's about having the right core principles in the system. For instance, in terms of, so any security company that tells you they're 100% effective is by very definition not a security company, because in security there is no such thing as 100%. If we get into the 9.9, like, we're doing amazingly well in terms of our reliability, if we're able to get that level of accuracy in terms of finding the bad guys. And that's because we have to assume that we will get it wrong. If we don't make that assumption, that creates an edge case that allows the other person to exploit it. It creates a blind spot. And so you have to be very aware of your blind spots and try and build 360-degree view so that you're aware of everything that happens. So in our case with Confiant, we've built our system quite deliberately to be multi-layered and to try and create catch-22 environments where if they want to evade one layer, they're going to have to we'll detect them with the other. And if they want to evade this layer, we'll catch them with this one, so that they can't. It's like there's a corridor they need to run through. We have one camera looking this way. We have one camera looking that way. And so you've got to go through the corridor. Now, that gives us access to the data. After that, we then need to analyze the data to be able to find the bad guy inside of it. And so that's where we have to assume that we're always going to get it wrong, and that there will be times when they get through us. Otherwise, we set up the wrong principles.
Right. LD, that's been absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been amazing. I say this to a lot of people, and it's true, is that, you know, I learned so much from this, and I hope everybody else who listens to it learns as well. There's a great, you know, there's so much insight into this, and thank you so much for sharing it for today.
Yeah, no, Tim, well, thank you very much for the opportunity. It was great to talk you through all these details. Obviously, clearly, it's something that I'm very passionate about. It's something that I find very interesting and fun. And so it's for those that are looking for fun challenges, I definitely think security work is there's a lot of excitement to it. And it's as I said, well, so as one of the truths that we've built our business on, as I may have mentioned, it's like there will always be assholes, and so there will always be a need for people to fight back.
And in the show notes, I've got you shared with me a number of your blogs that have been written, and I've read them, and they're fascinating, and I recommend them to people. They don't take a long time to read. You know, it's a 2-3 minute read, but you know, it's enough for you to go, wow, you know, because I didn't know anything about it, and it's amazing to actually learn about this stuff. I'm a great believer in lifelong learning, and if people
absolutely
watch this, then they should check it out as well.
Absolutely, yeah. No, blog. Our security team posts their research at blog.confiant.com, and I highly recommend it. A lot of great, interesting things, and you will definitely learn reading through what they post there.
Thank you so much for today, LD. Thank you.
You as well, Tim.
Sharing your insight with us.
My pleasure. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Yeah, and you.